Welcome back to another edition of Dante's Discussion Answers. That's right, we are answering the question I posted last week, or 8 days ago, if you will, on FextraLife and, of course, the video on YouTube. And the question was, what is your favorite thing about PvP? Of course, like I said, I posted this on FextraLife, there it is. And I provided sort of a range of what obvious answers could be, but it's not like they're bad answers. It's a little bit more obvious, but I wanted people to go in a little bit more depth with what they thought, and some people provided some pretty awesome answers. But let's continue with the beginning here. Kyle Lilly, or Xbox Live's Lord Relic, says, pooping on kids who think they're MLG pros, raging hormone-ridden adolescents with their hate mail, parrying new experiences every single time. Obviously, you know, teaching little tiny children, even though Lord Relic is 5 years old himself. But anyways, teaching little children to be a little bit more humble after they get destroyed from thinking, oh, I can taunt you, blah, 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 and do all this crap, and then you just absolutely obliterate them. Fantastic feeling. Obviously, parrying and hate mail from parrying or from destroying, great. And the thing he says at the end, I think resonates the best, is new experiences every single time. And that's true. Every fight is different every single time. So every single fight you have is not the same as the previous and won't be the same as the one after it. For, you know, millions of reasons, really, if you think about it. So that's just one. That's just one. We go on to Mirzi, the Scottish man of the ages. Anyways, my favorite part, I love the favorite, he puts a U in there, but my favorite part about PvP is coming across other players that have skill and having a great duel. Going toe-to-toe where the fights are always close and could go either way at any time. Those are the kind of players that I stop the fight before we die and heal to go again. That's awesome. Yeah, that's one of my favorite things, is coming across players. And it's increasingly, you know, not saying like I'm great or anything, but increasingly when you do get better and better, generally, especially since the game's been here for this long, you're going to get better and better than most people, and they're going to either stay the same or, I mean, they're still going to be lagging behind you for the most point. So when you find, you know, people with similar skill or maybe a mismatch of styles, it's awesome. It's great. It's great when you can sort of showcase your skills versus theirs. You get a great battle. I mean, that's what it's all about. It's all about having a battle. I personally love battles that are, you know, minutes long rather than the, oh, he has an ultra great sword, you messed up, you got hit twice, and then you messed up again, you got hit twice, and that was 4 hits, you're dead in, you know, 15 seconds. You know, it happens, but I like the longer battles a lot more myself. So going to FextraLife, Praise the Sun says, at this stage, it's simply finding unpredictable, formidable enemies. I remember the days when just landing a hit was an accomplishment. Jaha! And now, landing hit was never an accomplishment for me. Winning was an accomplishment, because anybody can land one hit, usually, especially if you got a quicker weapon. The problem was winning, you know, hitting that second time, obviously. But yeah, you know, finding unpredictable enemies, I love it. You know, I'm finding more and more people who unlock and relock. I don't find many people who utilize it as well as it should be used, but I'm glad people are trying it. So we go to Estranged Knight says, using nothing but my super simple super crap gear and schooling those scrubs with their million buffs, robes, and katanas. So satisfying. That is, it is satisfying. Now, you know, not necessarily using super crap gear just on purpose, but it's when you cosplay as somebody, and a lot of times when you cosplay as somebody, their armor or something isn't that great. So then, you know, I guess in a sense it is crap gear, and then you beat people cosplaying. Oh, I love that feeling. Schooling them. I love, you know, when I do my PvP videos, with the exception of, I think, like one, I don't ever buff my character. I don't ever buff my weapon. So it is very satisfying when you win fights to people who super buff, and especially satisfying when you destroy them. I mean, what can I say? It's so good. So on FextraLife, Exuitus the Great says, outsmarting someone going in with my hard theory crafted build and outsmarting someone and the build coming together. That's great. I don't normally switch builds to put them together in a sense, because I'm still doing a one weapon whatever each day, but no, I can definitely see how this is a great thing. Obviously outsmarting someone is great when you run and you try to do an attack, but then you back up and then you hit him, like it's like, oh, I didn't expect him to do it twice, and that's what's interesting about R1 spamming, is because no one does it anymore, no one expects it, so that when you do R1 spam, it's unexpected. So it's kind of like, it's the brain of the game. You gotta get in the mind of the opponent and stuff. I don't know, it's fantastic. Going back to YouTube, Elwood P. Dowd, the best moment is when you parry someone's first attack in a duel and one-shot them, or almost one-shot them. I gotta say, parrying the first attack, you want to talk about something that completely damages their whole life, is when their first attack gets parried. I mean, how sad is that? They're coming into the fight, they're like, all right, everything's even, full health, blah, blah, blah. It's like, all right, let's go. Boom, parry. Like, are you kidding? The first attack? That's the worst. You basically won the battle already, as far as I'm concerned. From that point, it's awesome, and especially if you one-shot them. I mean, one-shotting doesn't happen as much, there's climax and obviously bigger weapons. I'm assuming that happens with lower levels a lot more, but higher levels, you usually have enough HP to where one-shotting is very difficult to pull off. T-Tiger R13 says, my favorite thing in Dark Souls 2 is to parry the world. Yes. Wow, man. That sound when you parry someone is a great satisfaction. I 100% agree. That sound, when you hear that sound, it really is like angels just singing. And to beat up gankers, obviously, most people don't like gankers. It's so lovely to fight them, especially when they first wrecked me with 3 people, then come back into the same world and wreck them. Oh man, I love these gestures when they throwing it on me the first time they wrecked me. After then, it's my turn. Also, I love the arena. Cheers. Yeah, the arena's cool. I think the arena was a good idea. How they implemented it, I don't know. I go back and forth on whether or not it's good or bad, depending on what the creators' vision was, what they had in mind, I guess. And then Emre Delabaz simply says, guard break. Yeah, guard break's fantastic. Turtling used to be a huge issue in Dark Souls 1. That used to be, that used to be something I would use because it was one of the few ways I could not get backstabbed. I didn't know how to not get backstabbed because it was just like magnet backstabs constantly. So like I was a turtle because I didn't know how to play at all. And guard break is definitely fantastic to punish them. I think guard breaking should actually be slightly faster because you can still turtle in this game. You just have to watch out for when they move, obviously. So I think guard break should be a little bit quicker, but that's just my opinion. On FextraLife, Exalis says, beating face with the greatsword and getting hate mail because Ultra Greatsword R1 spam is overpowered. Well, obviously, it's not overpowered. You just need to either be able to parry, unless it's two-handed, you can't, but be able to parry, roll away, backstep, or even just hold your shield out and take that little bit of chip damage. I mean, it's not overpowered, let's be honest. But hate mail. Hate mail, a lot of people love hate mail because it sort of solidifies how good they are. So it's like, I destroyed you, and I would get hate mail all the time with daggers, of all things. They're like, oh man, using that stone ring. Well, I use the stone ring almost like 99% of the time, regardless, because I rely on, breaking somebody's boys. But yeah, it's hilarious when you get all this hate mail. I mean, I practically got hate mail on almost, I'd say every single weapon I've used. I've got at least one piece of hate mail. It's like, oh man, you're such a scrub using blah 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 blah. It's like, really? You got hit by this ultra great sword? What am I supposed to do? Not attack? Yeah, it just really makes you feel good sometimes. Over Minion says, I like trying to use quirks in the targeting system in all the mind games the community all the mini games the community dreams up. I also like the fashion behind PvP. No good duel comes without fashion souls. That is true. Fashion souls is awesome. Most armors come together. if you will. It's very interesting how it's kind of tough to actually have really mismatched armor, because most of them somehow fit together. It's kind of amazing how they did that. You know, you can get a gray and a silver and you put them together and it kind of works out. Obviously there's certain things like the flower skirt and the poison, I forgot what the hell it is, the poison one that makes you float or whatever. Like if you put that together with some other armors, it'll definitely look weird, but for the most part, a lot of the fashion souls seems to be working together pretty well. As far as the mini games, I haven't really experienced many mini games. There are a few I've experienced that hopefully I will have a video for later of. But yeah, the mini games are great. Like really just people's imagination is what carries a lot of these PvP aspects, which is fantastic. And using the quirks of the targeting system, again, you know, I haven't seen many people really utilize it that well. I've seen maybe one or two people who were like, it seemed like it was pretty good, but then if you fought them enough times, you know what they're doing, so it's not as tricky. But yeah, I think it's great people are trying all these different types of things. On Legit Games says, my favorite thing about Dark Souls 2 PvP is definitely the accessibility. I can almost always pick up a match a lot quicker than any other Souls game. I'm not sure if he means as far as being able to play the game, because I think there is a learning curve to it. I think he means as far as being able to, I guess, get into a match, meaning, you know, a fight club or whatnot. And I definitely agree with that, because I don't know if the interwebs or servers or whatever you want to call it they had on the other Souls games, the Demon Souls and Dark Souls 1, how terrible they were, but it seemed like being able to pick people up was a lot more difficult, and I think it was basically invasion based. I could be wrong. I actually can't remember because it's been a little while. JS Pumpkin King says, fight clubs really fun to watch other players fight against each other. This is definitely true. A lot of times, you know, of course I want to always be fighting, but sometimes it's good to get the other perspective, the third person perspective, sort of watch the fight as it goes on and be like, wow, that was really amazing what they did. I've never seen that, blah, blah, blah. You know, that type of stuff is awesome. I love seeing that. Sometimes you can see really cool weapon maneuvers too. Yep. Not really fond of spells, even though not all spells are cheap, but mostly a no buff PvP is always the best. It's the most thrilling experience. I don't know. I mean, you know, I've seen people buff up. Usually if it's more even, it's like if they both buff up, I think it's fine. If it's more even in that aspect, I like it better. I don't care if they buff or don't buff. When one buffs, super buffs, and the other one doesn't, you know, at least for me, I always root for the guy who doesn't buff. I don't know, it just makes me feel better when it's like, oh, get good, scrub, right? You know, whatever. You can buff, I don't care. On FextraLife, July says, I like the basic skeleton of Souls PvP. The fundamental skills of positioning, reading your opponent, timing attacks, etc. are very interesting. Basically, everything else is trash. Okay, well, let's start off with the good. As you can see, he basically trashes the game after that, but I don't know why. I don't think it's as bad as he thinks, or she. But, yeah, the Skeleton of Souls PvP is pretty good. I mean, I obviously have been playing hundreds of hours, so I obviously like it. The fundamental skills of positioning. Now, I actually, if you don't mind me talking about myself, but I actually think I am one of those people who are better than most at positioning, at knowing the range of weapons. Now, there's certain weapons, obviously, like lances, that are sometimes a little bit ridiculous, almost impossible to really gauge where they can hit you. But I think as far as positioning and reading your opponent and timing attacks, I think I'm pretty good at it, as you can watch in a lot of my videos. For some reason, that's where I excel, and I sort of not excel at being, I guess, a little bit more tricky or whatever with my character. So, like, I rely on certain fundamentals, whereas a lot of other people rely on just, I guess, reaction time and that type of tricky, super skittish lock, unlock type deal, which is fine. Hey, whatever you want to do to win is fine. That's fine. But, yeah. And then he goes on after he hates the game for a while. He says, basic gameplay really good, though. It has to be to make putting up with all this bad blank worthwhile. Of course. Yes. Of course. Plowto777 says pretty much what July says. Of course, he puts it with a Y. The fact that you have to be very careful about everything and a slight mistake can lead to your defeat. Now, this is definitely true, and I've seen it time and time again, especially if you're using weaker weapons. So a lot of times I use daggers, and I think I'm decent with daggers, but when you make a mistake with a dagger, basically any other weapon you go against is going to do more damage than a dagger. But when you make a mistake with a dagger and you get hit the twice, you know, because your poise gets broken, that basically nullifies your like 14 hits with the daggers, and then you got to come back and do that again. So you really got to be careful with certain weapons, and I think that's awesome. The PvP is very satisfying, like he says. Aside from Ice Rapier and Chaos Blade, I don't think weapons are unbalanced. I don't think those weapons are unbalanced. I don't know why people hate on the Ice Rapier so much. At least the Chaos Blade makes a little bit more sense because it does similar damage to ultra great weapons, which I think is a little silly in my opinion. But Ice Rapier, come on, people. Pokey pokey, stabby stabby. Alright, going back to YouTube. Inept Darklighter! Yes, he's back, and he says, with this very respectable vision, he says, given the fact that I am such an experienced and seasoned PvPer in Dark Souls 2, I feel that my opinion may mean something here. Now, this is true. His opinion means something. There's a huge list of things I love, but my very most favorite thing is straight up ganking. It is so incredibly awesome how the game allows you to team up with your friends who, like me, may lack skill and need souls to level up. Being able to 3v1 a random person for these reasons makes a portion of the game truly awesome. What is even better after someone gets ganked is to send them a message, man, I am truly thankful for all those souls. What I do not understand is why I get so many messages calling me a scrub and telling me to get good. I usually reply saying, thanks for the opinion, but I know what is best for me. Winky smiley face. Now, obviously he's being a little bit facetious here, but I guess there is an aspect that, you know, I'm not a ganker, but I can see, it's tough for me to see how ganking is fun. I guess it is fun to just pummel someone who's almost defenseless because you're getting shot from arrows, you know, crystal, soul mass, homing, whatever, and ultra greatsword. Like, I guess that's fun. I don't know. I've never done it. I don't know really how to talk about it, but I guess if that's what you like about PvP, I can't say it's wrong. Going back to FextraLife here, for the last thing, Tenzin. When I've just dropped 3 levels worth of souls and I'm in the middle of battling my way back to them, hanging on by a thread, and I'm invaded by a guy who one hit killed me from behind before I even see him with a super magical weapon. Hands down, my favorite thing just before we're starting the game in offline mode. Now, I don't know if he's joking. I feel like that last bit maybe says that he's joking, but I mean, even though this is also part PvP, part, actual in-game content, this is one of my favorite parts about the Souls game. Now, I especially remember this in Demon Souls. Demon Souls was a lot, well, in my opinion, a lot more difficult of a game, but the whole idea of getting invaded, you usually, especially if you just started playing the game, you usually don't want to get invaded because Souls really mean so much to you. You don't know the game well. You don't really know how to play as well as, obviously, the invaders. So it's awesome. That's actually one of my favorite things about just the game in general. As far as the PvP, you know, it's not as much a PvP deal as just the in-game deal, but it is still awesome. That sort of, you know, getting your blood pumping, your heart racing, like, oh crap, I gotta get that green pile of garbage that's gonna level me up so I can maybe beat this guy next time. And then you just get backstabbed, you're like, where'd he come from? Spawned right behind you, you didn't even know it. You're just like afraid of getting hit by an arrow or whatever from whoever, wherever, and I don't know. I love that. I think it's fantastic. Anyways, a lot of awesome and fantastic answers by everybody. It's just amazing how the responses I get, a lot of them are obviously great. You know, one of my favorite things about PvP, even though I don't do it that much, you know, and some people said it before, is parrying. Now, parrying is one of the most satisfying things, not only in Dark Souls 2, but in gaming. I am telling you this. One of the most satisfying things in any game I've ever played is parrying somebody. When you parry somebody, especially if it's more of a predictive parry rather than a, you know, I backstep and parry because I knew they were gonna do 2 hits. More of a, you know, oh, he's coming closer. Oh, I think he's gonna do it now, and you parry him. When you do that, when you predict what they're gonna do and you just smash their dreams to the ground, grind them up, cook them up, eat them up. Oh, one of the most satisfying things ever. I'm telling you this. I wouldn't say that it's necessarily my favorite thing about PvP, but I will say probably my favorite thing is I guess it would be you know, the competition is great and everything. I love competition, but a lot of other games have competition. What this game has that a lot of other people or other games don't have is variety. I love the variety. You know, I think, you know, a few other people touched on this, but the fact that every fight is different. You know, you don't know what you're going against. Someone can switch a weapon anytime they want. It doesn't, like, even if you see 3 weapons, they can literally switch to 100 and whatever, 60 weapons anytime they want. You don't know what they're going to use. And there's even rings that make your left and right weapon or whatever invisible. So that's what I love about this. So much armor and 4 pieces. So I don't know what the hell the math is on that, but it's 4 pieces times 160 different weapons times 2 hands times blah blah blah. Like, it's probably in the billions of different types of, you know, varieties you can have. That's what I love about it. The unpredictability, the fact that anything can really happen for the most part, and it makes for a great game. You know, it's like, oh wow, I didn't expect, you know, it's something that Lord Relic actually does all the time, which I love. Is, you know, he's fighting with the Sun Sword or something, and he's fighting, you know, he's trying to parry, maybe he gets it, maybe he doesn't. He's fighting, he unlocks, he runs around, he's like, he's all crazy, you don't know what's happening, and then he runs after you and he puts, you know, either a lance or paid spear or something, and he puts it and he destroys you for like 1,000 damage because you weren't expecting it. Like, how the hell were you supposed to know he was gonna switch the weapon, run at you, get those hit? Like, you're not, it's very difficult, and I love that about the game. I love that you can really be unpredictable at points and really just make people marvel at your prowess, if you will. And I don't know, it's fantastic. You know, I love the game. I think it has some of the best combat of any games I've ever played. I'm glad everybody enjoys it. Thank you for your answers. Like, comment, subscribe. Tell me what you think about this video. Tell me what you think about all the questions, answers, everything, and I will be back.